Okay, we now convene the meeting for Friday, December 4th for the Canadian Heritage pursuant to Standing Order 1082 and the motion adopted by the committee on October 23rd. The committee resumes its study on the challenges and issues faced by the arts, culture, heritage, and sports sectors during the COVID-19 pandemic. So today we have two rounds of witnesses. I'd like to remind everyone that when you're not speaking or not recognized by the chair, please put your microphones on mute. And of course, please speak directly. When you're asking a question, please ask directly to our witnesses. But before we get to that, we're going to extend to our witnesses 5 minutes each. And our first witnesses from Mike Roma, who's president, Kathy Jo Noble, chief executive officer of Canadian Parks and Recreation Association. Following that, we have Melanie Raymond, who's general director of Carnaval de Québec. And of course, David Shoemaker, Chief Executive Officer and Secretary General of the Canadian Olympic Committee. We're going to start with the Canadian Parks and Recreation. And Mike and Kathy, you have 5 minutes. I'm not sure which one is going first. Which one would like to speak?
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead. Up to 5 minutes.
Start. Thanks. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and happy Friday. On behalf of the Canadian Parks and Recreation Association, thank you for inviting us to share with you the impact COVID-19 has had on the Parks and Recreation Service and how together we can face that challenge. CPRA is a national voice for municipal parks and recreation. So we're the playgrounds, the arenas, the bike trails in your community. We're also the yoga classes, swimming lessons, summer camps, and soccer leagues that you and your family participate. Our impact is felt by Canadians day after day. We're not a single event, but in fact, we are the places and spaces where events take place. Public recreation provides a fundamental service to communities, especially the most vulnerable. Our services are a direct link to return normalcy, health, wellness, and connections back to Canadians. When the pandemic struck Canada, public recreation facilities and programs were shuttered, and the vast majority of them have not returned to full service. The result was an immediate disappearance of crucial services to children, seniors, families, and at-risk Canadians to ensure their physical, mental, and social health. For example, work-from-home parents no longer had summer camps or sports programs for their children. Seniors no longer had community drop-in centers, and youth at risk no longer had their weekly sport program. But meanwhile, municipal parks and green spaces have become essential for Canadians for safe exercise and socialization during the pandemic. And spaces that are normally used for recreation have been transformed into COVID-19 testing centers, overflow shelters for homeless, and standby field hospitals. Parks and recreation service providers are working hard every day to return community sport and recreation to Canadians. However, the challenges of facilities closing and reopening, trying to keep up with ever-changing regulations, and dealing with frustrated Canadians who want to be active but can't, are taking a toll on parks and recreation service providers.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thanks for the airtime today. As governments continue to unfold a restart strategy, it's essential to recognize the critical role that community sport, parks, and recreation play. Equitable access to public recreation programs and facilities is fundamental to Canadians, especially for the most vulnerable in our society. It must be understood that the social costs that will result without the full return of these services are profound. Recreation leads to healthier people and more connected communities. The economic contributions that municipal parks and recreation make have been absent throughout the pandemic, from youth employment to sport tourism to program user fees. Further, Canada's economic recovery relies heavily on the productivity of parents who require safe and secure childcare, camps, and programs for their children, or day programming for their aging family members. The challenges of returning community sport and recreation are significant. Municipal systems are struggling to return to the same level under new operating conditions, with some communities facing such severe financial challenges that they're actually closing pools and arenas, some permanently, despite being able to actually have them open as regulations allow. Government funding announced to date is well-intentioned but not accessible to our sector. For example, municipalities did not qualify for the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, thus returning to a full staff complement for restart will be difficult and costly. The government provided $72 million in funding for sport to support national sport organizations to prepare for the return to play, but the return to play cannot happen without the facilities and spaces that we provide. The government reallocated existing infrastructure funds via COVID-19 resilience stream, but this is not new funding, and there remains a significant infrastructure gap left unaddressed. Municipalities will continue to face the same difficult decisions on how to allocate infrastructure funds that do not equate to the magnitude of the infrastructure needs in our communities. The government recently announced the Canadian Healthy Communities Initiative that will provide $31 million to communities to make adaptation to spaces that are necessary due to COVID. This is an excellent initiative, but we call upon the government to provide significantly more dollars, as $31 million will not even begin to meet the demand. Our sector has come forward with 2 requests to the federal government to help return community sport, parks, and recreation services to Canadians. The first is that we call upon the federal government to create a community sport and recreation recovery fund to support the full return of recreation and sport programs across Canadian communities. A multi-year burst of funding will ensure that community sport, parks, and recreation services can be returned to the most vulnerable in our society, and that rural communities are not left without these fundamental services as a legacy of the pandemic. This is not an infrastructure funding program. Instead, it is for activities such as promoting and destigmatizing the return to community sport and recreation, adapting recreation and sport programming, supporting practitioners and volunteers to adapt to post-pandemic realities, and ensuring our services are still able to support the most vulnerable in society.
Mr. Roma, thank you so much. I'm sorry, I have to be very cognizant of time here. That's your 5 minutes. Madame Raymond, pour 5 minutes, s'il vous plaît.
Ms. Raymond, for 5 minutes, please. Hello, and thank you for inviting us to appear before you. In 1954, the founders of the Quebec Winter Carnival, the Carnaval du Québec, created an event with 2 aims in mind: relieving the winter gloom and stimulating the local economy. Now, these 2 aims and needs are as much use necessary as possible and part of the Carnival's DNA, given that this crisis is very similar to what the Carnival was created to relieve 67 years ago. The Carnaval de Québec is a worldwide recognized destination and consolidates Canada's reputation as a welcome destination for Canadians and also for international tourists. The festival has grown over the years. It now generates $16 million in economic spin-offs and supports 254 jobs. Despite the challenges of the current context, our organization continues to play a role in the community. Indeed, in response to the crisis, the Carnaval has chosen to deploy its programming along Quebec City's commercial arteries and to barter rights of access to its emblematic effigy, which has become an incentive for local purchasing. Our choice is meaningful in this context. We are working for the common good. Investing in an event is to invest in a community. Festivals and events have extraordinary leverage power. With this in mind, I'd like to take this opportunity to share some concrete solutions that will help us weather the storm and contribute to the economic recovery to come. First of all, I thank the government for enhancing the emergency wage subsidy. This emergency relief has made and continues to make a huge difference to our organization. It allows us to retain resources essential to our day-to-day operations, to our product, to adapting our project for the future, and to recovery planning. We certainly hope that it will be maintained at its current level for the duration of the crisis. I ask you to keep in mind the seasonal nature of our organizations. Eligibility criteria must reflect our reality with a view to maintaining our accessibility and preserving the expertise within our industry. Many event organizations have been weakened. Most are not-for-profit organizations, so do not have considerable financial or capital reserves. Debt is not a viable solution. Direct assistance is to be preferred for keeping our organizations alive and quickly absorbing economic impacts of the crisis with a view to effective recovery. We're encouraged to see that the funds available through the Building Communities through Arts and Heritage program have remained at the same level as they were in recent years. To maximize the program's impact, we ask for increased flexibility. Our digital and virtual content development projects should be made eligible. For example, hybrid programming should be permitted. Our sector is known for its agility, inventiveness, and creativity. However, the current crisis is affecting us all deeply. Our growth has been dampened. Given that our long-term vision is to play a role as an economic driver essential to the ecosystems of our communities, it is imperative that this program funding be sustained well beyond 2022. I repeat, we must be seen for what we are, an economic, sociocultural, and tourism lever. To invest in us is to multiply benefits. The Carnaval generates tax revenues of $1 million for the federal government, $2 million for the provincial government. I remain very optimistic about the future because the basic ingredients of a successful festival mirror the needs of any community to celebrate together our cultural heritage and to keep our festive spirit alive. In order to ensure rapid recovery, we need to draw new capital to our organizations. To this end, we want to set up a new programming aiming to attract more tourism and thus new money along the lines of the 2009 Marquee Tourism Events Program. I would like to point out that 72% of spending by visitors to our event is generated by visitors from outside the province of Quebec. The Carnaval de Québec is a fine example of economic growth linked to tourism. It is a strategic tourism asset. We must work together to increase the attractiveness of the Carnaval to guarantee the ongoing status of Quebec and Canada as winter tourist destinations on the international scene. I will conclude by mentioning what I believe to be our most important contribution, our social impact. In my opinion, we constitute an essential service for individual health and community well-being. Artists, performers, craftspeople, workers, volunteers, producers, and presenters, broadcasters all depend and can count on the presence of a strong events community. We must sustain this ecosystem to be able to quickly bounce back, bringing thriving communities back to life. That's the spirit that brought the Carnaval de Québec to life 67 years ago, and we have all watched it thrive since. Thank you. Thank you, Madam.
Floor is yours. Up to 5 minutes, please.
Thank you. The mission of the Canadian Olympic Committee is, in its simplest expression, to do everything we can to put Canadian athletes atop the Olympic podium. The COC itself is privately funded by 27 marketing partnerships, including some of the most prominent Canadian businesses, RBC, Hudson's Bay, Bell, Canadian Tire. Those partnerships are intact, and we are, generally speaking, weathering the pandemic. But we're also an umbrella organization of 62 national sports organizations, big ones like Soccer Canada, Curling Canada, Swimming Canada, and smaller ones like Rowing Canada and Luge Canada. These NSOs are generally not weathering the pandemic. They are funded in large part by government and from club fees. And with participation levels at near nil, many NSOs are in peril, and the Canadian sports system is in near crisis. Also in crisis is our nation's relationship with sport. Once one of the more sporting nations in the world, the pandemic has accelerated a decline in sport and physical activity across Canada. With facilities closed since March all across the country, Canadians have sunk further into a sedentary lifestyle, all but certain to bring about a wave of physical and mental wellness challenges unless tackled head on. Fortunately, if we reintroduce Canadians to sport, the results can be dramatic. Sport has long been understood as a powerful tool for building healthy and inclusive communities, can deliver on our national priorities of promoting health and wellness, fostering safe communities, improving education outcomes, stimulating economic activity, and assisting with the social and cultural integration of new Canadians. Sport can and should underpin our national recovery. Now, describing where we are is not simple. The impact of the pandemic on the sports system is varied, just like the sports themselves. But in almost every case, the needs are considerable, and there are some key themes. Flexibility. Many NSOs need budgetary flexibility. Critical relief funding has been delivered. Thank you very much. But with their activities still largely stopped, they need government flexibility to spend money later and for different purposes. And we're working on that. Training environments. Many NSOs need safe daily training environments with pools, clubs, gyms, and other athletic facilities largely closed. Most national athletes have been struggling to find safe ways to train. We've been working on that too. Major events. Many NSOs need to stage events or they won't survive. Curling Canada, Soccer Canada, Freestyle Canada, to name a few. Despite Tennis Canada's best efforts, their signature Rogers Cup event canceled in 2020, forcing it to incur a $31 million loss, causing deep cuts to its programs and a 40% reduction in staff. This will in turn decimate its efforts to develop tennis in the years to come. And memberships. Many NSOs have lost their members. So many of them, like Gymnastics Canada or Skate Canada, rely on membership fees across the country. With clubs closed, these revenues have dried up. Here's the rub. We're working with Sport Canada hard and where we can to address our high performance needs. But these organizations are not just responsible for identifying elite Olympic talent. They have responsibility for growing their sport and an entire continuum, a pathway from what we say the playground to the podium. And it is the beginning of the pathway that warrants attention. Even before the pandemic, NSOs on average devoted only 12% of their budgets to developing their sports, to the grassroots, to getting younger athletes engaged, introducing them, exposing them to rules and to coaching and to broadening their base of participants. To recover from the pandemic, we need to reintroduce Canadians to sport through real investment in these NSOs. My remarks today before this committee can't do justice to the nuanced needs of the sports sector, but I like to frame two needs in two areas of focus. One, enhance emergency funding available to sports organizations and athletes under financial duress in order to manage through the challenges of the pandemic. And two, make a $50 million increase in annual funding to the sports system to address long-term need and to reintroduce Canadians to sport at the grassroots and the community level. We're not alone in facing this challenge, and we've seen others, with New Zealand as a prime example, implement significant investments in supporting their sports systems and linking sport to overall wellness and economic recovery. And just this week, the United Nations passed a motion encouraging member nations to include sport and physical activity in recovery plans post-COVID-19. The sport industry contributes roughly $6.6 billion annually to Canada's GDP and supports roughly 118,000 jobs. But the real impact of sport extends exponentially beyond these numbers. It contributes to physical, mental, and social wellness of our communities. As we build healthy and inclusive communities, so too are we building the foundation for our economic recovery. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shoemaker. From playground to podium. That's nice. Very good. Okay. Pour le premier tour, pour la première question.
For the first round of questions, Conservative Mr. Godin, you have 6 minutes, sir. Mr. Chair, do you hear me? Yes, good. Thank you, Chair, then. It's a real pleasure to be here with the committee today. This is not my usual committee. However, there is an organization that I know full well here that's from the lovely region of the national capital of Quebec, then. So I have some questions for the Director General, Ms. Mélanie Rimond of the Carnaval de Québec, which is the largest winter festival that there is, and a wonderful one. Thank you, Ms. Rimond, and thanks to the other witness as well for having come in to speak to us. Our aim here is to understand you better and find better ways to assist you. As you said so clearly, socioeconomic impact, this is of primary importance to us, and the impact of the Carnaval de Québec is precisely that. That's what it was created for economic recovery purposes when it was first created, and we know that this is important to our community. So my first question, Ms. Rimond, will be short, given I haven't that much time. How much money do you receive now from the federal government? Thank you, Mr. Godin, for this question. At this point, even though the Carnaval de Québec will take place in less than 3 months, we don't yet have confirmation of support. We had an emergency response from Heritage Canada that we are being considered, and we have a 9.3 million total budget from the federal government, 2 million from the provincial government. So you mean that you're still waiting for news? Though the pandemic is ongoing, I know that you did recently present your programming and announced then that you won't be having all the carnival events, that you will be spreading out to avoid large gatherings. And I think that that is respecting fully the public health guidelines. You don't have a federal government response yet, so it must be difficult to manage your budgeting. That said, I also understand that you are not going to be requiring the sale of effigies for access to the site. So that means you're going to be losing funding from the usual sale of the access to the effigy, and also loss of funding overall for this event. So how are you going to actually hold the event? I can tell you that we're down 25% on our normal budgeting. Given the context, we're being very careful. As I said, 72% of expenses for or of budget for the event is from tourists. And given that the Canada-US border is closed, we will only be drawing local tourists. We've been very conservative and careful in our outlook, given that there are a lot of costs involved in holding an outdoor event. I'm not able to foresee the weather, how much snow, sleet, and ice may affect the event. But the event is really now focused on going back to our roots, the reason we were created in the first place. We have thus had our approach of going directly into small areas of the community, backed by the health authorities in Quebec. We want to really go right back to our roots. As for the number of performers, artists, and artisans that we'll be able to hire, though, this year, well, quite different this year. In the past, we would hire about 600 of them a year. Currently, we can't do that. Private funding now. We do have some good partners who've been with us for over 20 years now here at the Carnaval de Québec, and most of the private funding has remained available despite the current context. We even have a new major partner offering over $100,000 to the Carnaval. This is really good news for us. Federal funding, just to be a little clearer, we have a triannual funding at present. That's the biggest source of our funding for the Carnaval. Thank you. It's good to have a conservative outlook, as you say you have. So, Madam Director General, I'd also would like to know something about how much of the Carnaval de Québec is held directly in the city, and is the proportion equal or similar to what we see in other events across Canada? Is there a larger or smaller footprint than other events across Canada? It depends on the programming. And this year, we are being prudent, we're being careful. Some programs have criteria that allow for better support for, let's say, a musical event than our event. Our event is very traditional, but covers so many different areas of activity, ice sculpture, circus artists. If I may, Ms. Raymond, I'd like to know, you've mentioned flexibility. Indeed, yes, in your opening remarks? Yes, I did. So what should you put in place to ensure flexibility, and what can you do if you're very imaginative about it? And that's what's needed. Yes, thank you, Mr. Godin. It's really a matter of adapting to everything that's digital, hybrid programming. That's what will help us. Even though we have announced that the Carnaval would take place physically in person this year, some of our programming is to be online, given that we don't want to encourage large gatherings. We're lucky we can transform our programming, allowing the spirit of the Carnaval to be used in various forms. But That needs to be recognized. We need to set our artists up virtually. Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Madam General Director of the Carnival.
Pour 3 minutes, s'il vous plaît.
Ms. Bessette, you have 3 minutes. Thank you, Chair. Thank you to our witnesses for being here with us today. My questions go to the Canadian Parks and Recreation Association Sports Canada. My first question is funding your organization for distributing funds for related to gender equality in sports. I know that's been there since 2017. So does this amount respond to the need, and how should we support small community organizations that administer various spaces?
And yeah, we were pleased to receive funding from Sport Canada. We're now about mid-project to encourage participation and retention of girls and women in sport. And often that might be found at a recreational level. We have a number of activities under that, including workshops and some activities in the north, but we also have community grants that are going out to small communities and large ones to implement solutions on the ground. Due to COVID, there's been some adjustments to that activity that was happening, and Sport Canada has been very generous in the flexibility of some of those projects starting late. But certainly we're finding the program to be very helpful, and Girls and Women is just one section of who we want to serve, and this program's serving us very well right now, and we're appreciative of it.
Thank you very much for your answer. Ma deuxième question, comment le
My second question, once again for you. How can the federal government contribute to supporting physical activity in sports, in the current context of the pandemic and given how sedentary Canadians may become? How can the federal government best support small organizations, community organizations, to respond to this?
Thank you. And I think the first step that we need to do is have Canadians feel confident in returning to public spaces and places to become active again. And I think two of our focuses is one is to make sure that we have the infrastructure funding to make facilities pandemic resilient, both for now and in the future. And that involves a number of things, everything from single person workout zones to open air change rooms to dealing with physical distancing at pinch points. So I think one of the most important things to get Canadians active again and make parents feel comfortable about their children going back to the pool and going back to the arena is going to ensure that facilities have the support they need, to open, because we are seeing cities large and small simply have too much demand and not enough revenue that's been lost in this year to actually open up the facilities again.
Merci. Sorry, you can finish your sentence if you wish.
Nope, that's good. Thank you.
Okay, merci, Madame Bessette. Mr. Vancouver, then.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and it's nice to see you, CJ, and everybody else who is familiar. Mr. Roma, nice to see everybody. Thank you for inviting me back to Heritage Committee. It's great to be here. I have a couple questions for Mr. Shoemaker from the Canadian Olympic Committee. I hear you loud and clear on the need for more budgetary flexibility and training environments and fees and revenues for national sport organizations, their associated PSOs, and certainly the community sport organizations. As you're aware, last week we made available $14 additional million for community sport organizations, and we're also moving forward on the international single sport events, as you recognized with the major events, sports that that rely on these revenues. We're making progress, and like you, I'm committed to making progress on this, but I would like to hear from you on what more progress means and if the recent news has been welcomed. And again, thank you for being on the Heritage Committee. And I wore my pin. You probably can't see it, but I'm wearing an Olympic pin today. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Mr. Vancouver. And it's quite something to be on the receiving end of a question from you in this setting. So, and I must say, we're deeply appreciative on behalf of a sports system of all these national sports organizations for the $72 million in emergency funding and the additional $14 million top up to community sport and clubs, which is deeply needed. And there's been quite the partnership to find solutions as it relates to single events and so on. It's we're very confident that there are solutions that will, for example, allow an event like the Rogers Cup or Skate Canada and other big sporting events to take place going forward. For me, the focus continues to be sort of the beginning end of the sport continuum, where it's very difficult to get people back into sport, and where I think a national agenda for national sports, an example of Skate Canada that has the flagship Learn to Skate program, that it's the program by which all others are measured by, is the sort of thing that we need to invest in that will have real positive outcomes. And that's still the gap that I see in the system at the moment.
Thanks very much for that. And you pointed it out in your testimony, but I do want to point out that when the Canadian Olympic Committee, as it is funded almost entirely by the private sector, very successfully, I should add, advocates for more money for the sports sector, you're not asking for support for the Canadian Olympic Committee, you're not asking for money for the Canadian Olympic Committee, but for your many stakeholder groups and all of the NSOs that do, quite frankly, get by on shoestring budgets in many cases and rely on fees and revenues. From your perspective, in having discussions with those NSOs and the athletes over the past 10 months, how are the NSOs doing? How are the athletes doing? And how can we do a better job supporting both?
Yes, we're not asking for a penny for the Canadian Olympic Committee. The Canadian Paralympic Committee has come in 2 budget cycles, not asking for a penny for itself, and we're proud of that. But we do represent the system, and there are some nice stories. We read today about Nordic Canada seeing a spike in interest in cross-country skiing and in the sale of cross-country ski equipment. So there are some nice stories in there, but by and large, there's incredible schisms in the system, and that needs to be addressed. Athletes, top of the challenge is mental wellness. For elite athletes, the postponement of the Olympic Games a year has created incredible havoc with their plans. In some cases, athletes who were going to compete are not able to compete, and they're financially challenged, incurring an additional $22,000 on average to delay their competition a year.
Thank you, Mr. Shoemaker. I have to leave it at that. Madame Desbiens, bienvenue encore.
Ms. Desbiens, welcome again. You have 6 minutes, madam. Thank you, Chair. First, let me thank all of you. Madame Raymond, I'd like to thank all the witnesses, but my question is for Raymond, given that I'm the MP for the riding in Quebec, and I love the Carnaval Québec. I don't have all 70-some effigies, but I have at least 50 of them. I don't have them here with me, but I can assure you that I hold them dear. Thank you for having the courage to carry on with this tradition in such difficult times. Ms. Raymond, I'd like to hear more from you about the marquee tourist events assistance programming, given that we have 3 mountains in our area, Mont Sainte-Anne, the Massif de Petite-Rivière, Saint-François, and the Grand Fond Mountain. And we know that tourists going to Quebec City for the Carnaval de Québec often come from outside the country. And before or after the Carnival, they will often go to my riding. So I'd like to know whether the programming that was of such assistance in 2008, events like yours, could you tell us more about how that can be reproduced as a success? Yes, we certainly hope for a recovery. This is, as an emergency situation, these are immediate needs, but we have a long-term vision. This is a carnival that has been around for, over 70 years. And by shifting our programming, shifting our business plan, we know that we can create attractive marquee events that will draw in large numbers of tourists. We know that this requires expertise. Programming, yes, in the immediate, but we also need to protect this expertise to be able to reimagine recovery into the future. We want to remain a marquee product for Canada, foreigners coming to Canada, and for Canadians as well. People coming to Quebec City in the winter, discovering the Carnaval de Québec. And as you say, there are important spin-offs around the area of Quebec and for other sectors, which is why we think it's really important to have long-term foreseeable funding. Other witnesses have been speaking of flexible funding, immediate funding. Yes, that's very important, but we also need to be able to foresee our future in order to invest in this marquee product for Canada. Thank you. Do you have any figures about the economic spin-offs around the Carnaval de Québec, not solely for the Quebec City, but for the entire region? No, unfortunately, because all we have are the immediate spin-offs, 16 million. And this is using a approach used by the Ministry of Tourism of Quebec. It's for the people who came specifically to Quebec City to attend the Carnaval de Québec. If someone comes for the Pee-wee International Tournament, which overlays the Carnaval de Québec, then that doesn't count for us. Nevertheless, the spin-offs are incremental and spin off each other. People can spend 6-7 days in the Charlevoix, Quebec City area, and that's what we hope that we can encourage, having people discover our winter destination, which that's why we want new funding. That's quite relevant, quite interesting. 16 million is a large amount, but those are the direct spin-offs. I can tell you personally that tourists going around with the special belts worn by the French people to come to Quebec, the Ceinture Fléchée. It's really clear that the Carnaval de Québec has a direct impact on the entire region. So there are many indirect spin-offs for sure of your extraordinary event. Do I have a little more time, Chair? I'm sorry, I didn't turn on my timer. 1 minute. Very well. Now, the amounts that you need in the immediate, what would be the best way to get funding to you immediately so that you can ensure that January is a success for you? Well, it would be good to get answers to the requests we've made already, and the emergency assistance fund, very helpful, but of course, prolonging the wage subsidy, that's extremely important to us, knowing that we will have 75% of that funding ongoing will be useful. We've certainly insisted at the Bloc Québécois that it be kept at 75%, and we're happy to hear that you know about that. Thank you, Ms. Raymond. Thank you.
6 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for everyone who's joining us, all of the witnesses. It's been very interesting. I have a very active family. My children are athletes, and so listening to a lot of the testimony and what is at risk is both frightening and enlightening. So thank you. I do have some questions for Ms. Noble and Mr. Roma, but before I do, I did want to ask a very quick question, if I could, of Madame Raymond. Obviously, from Alberta, my connection to your festival is virtual, or is not in person as often as we would like. But we have our own festival in Edmonton, Strathcona. My riding is the Francophone sort of heart of Alberta, I guess, and we have the flying canoe, or the canoe volant, in our riding, where we actually ride canoes down ski hills, and it's an entire festival. And I'm just wondering whether or not you have considered sharing the expertise you have. You know, winter festivals seem to me like a very strong idea during this time. We can be outside, we can be distant, we can wear masks, all of those things. Have you shared your expertise with other festivals? Do you communicate with other festivals across the country?
In 2019, in February, during our Carnaval, we brought in about 20 other events from across the country that became, put something on with us to help participation and communication. So that sort of discussion exists, but we would have to get back to that given that COVID has had such an impact on our business approach.
It would be wonderful if you could share the things that you learned from your experiences with others. That would be good to spread that knowledge around. The questions that I also have for Ms. Noble and Mr. Roma. One of the things, Ms. Noble, you had spoken about our urban spaces, our parks, our outdoor recreational spaces being highly utilized during COVID-19. In Alberta, we actually have a provincial government who is selling off our provincial parks and is threatening to dispose of some of our public spaces, and says that there is a underutilization of those. Can you speak to the information that you have, how you know that these spaces in fact are being used?
Thank you for the question, and I'll maybe take this. They definitely have been utilized more now that they are kind of like the only show in town or the only option that people have. I am familiar with the province and their intentions to do, as you had mentioned, and a lot of the parcels that they're talking about are actually provincial park spaces, so they're not necessarily in urban areas. And they're park spaces that I would say are less programmed and more related to conservation and environmental stewardship and so on. That being said, I think the CPRA board and our members are of the mindset that we don't have enough of all recreation spaces, whether they're indoor or outdoor, and that the demand for those types of spaces, whether it's during a pandemic, after a pandemic, or before one, is insatiable in a lot of ways.
Well, and one of the things that you had spoken about in your comments, actually, Mr. Roma, I'll just keep going with you if you don't mind, was the recovery fund, the emergency recovery fund that you'd like to see. And we know that the 31 million that was allocated was not enough, but what would you like to see? Perhaps I missed that, but what would be the amount that would be appropriate in your opinion?
We've articulated an amount in our formal ask for two different streams of funding, one related to infrastructure, which is similar to the one that you have alluded to there and that we alluded to in our speech. But the other one, probably more important, has to do with not necessarily infrastructure, but helping stop the gap, I guess, that's growing right now, and helping municipalities I guess, overcome this period where there's extreme financial pressure on these services. We're only in Alberta, so I'm a resident of Alberta as well. I realize that it's different across the country, but right now we're allowed to have 25% capacity in our facilities, which equates to 25% of any of the revenue that was going into municipal budgets, with a lot of the same, if not enhanced, expenses attached to operating those facilities. And on top of that, ensuring that the users and the public does come back in, I guess, droves, hopefully, at least to levels where they were before, is going to require not just opening the doors, it's going to require convincing people that these places are safe and that the benefits of physical activity, recreation, sport, as mentioned by other speakers, even community events, outweigh the potential risks attached to public health concerns.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Well, and one of the things that I'm seeing, my daughter is a swimmer, and so her swim club has gone out above and beyond to provide training for her and provide those options. But it's very expensive for coaching because it is now required to be one-on-one coaching for those athletes. The other piece that is shocking and quite stressful for these organizations, from my writing at least, have been the lack of funding from the municipalities. So we have seen that so many of these organizations did receive grant funding from their municipality, which simply cannot afford to do that anymore. So, for example, in Edmonton, the city of Edmonton has stopped some of the granting that goes to these organizations. Perhaps, Mr. Shoemaker, you could speak a little bit about the impact that the lack of municipal funding has also had on some of these smaller national sports organizations.
Yeah, well, and it's critical that there's funding there to allow clubs and other local facilities to be open, because the provincial and territorial organizations depend on, in effect, a revenue source that's derived from that then flows up to the national sports organizations. There's an interconnectivity among all of these sports organizations in our federal model that depends on all partners at all levels of government doing their part.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I have to leave it at that. We're now going to
you.
go to Mr. Waugh for 5 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you, Chair, and welcome everyone to today's Heritage meeting. I thought I'd start first with the Canadian Parks Recreation, Mike and Kathy. City of Saskatoon just announced for SaskTel Center a deficit of $3.6 million for 2020, and they're facing a $1.6 million deficit for 2021. So you can see the pressure put on cities. We've had a big uproar this week in the city of Saskatoon when they said no more nets in outdoor hockey rinks. And it has caused a big kerfuffle because the 52 community-owned rinks outdoors are all volunteer-based, and now all of a sudden you can't have a net on these ice surfaces until December 17th. So you're seeing a lot of pushback from the public versus municipal, provincial, and federal governments. Just maybe comment on that, because the pools are semi-shut down, the rinks now are almost shut down, and you can see the adverse effect in the communities that we serve coast to coast here.
Yeah, I'll start on that, and thank you for the question. From our perspective, we have to follow the rules. We have to follow the regulations that are set forth for us. And I think our biggest concern is not following those rules, because we will do that no matter what. It's what happens after the regulations and the restrictions are loosened, and whether or not this kind of harm that is happening, not just with maybe relationships between groups and the public and the municipalities that are enforcing some of these regulations, but also the stigma of what's safe, what's not safe, how beneficial are these activities to our communities, and so on. We want to make sure that recovers as quickly as possible. I can say that recreation and parks, and probably speak for sport and community events as well, we're resilient. We're part of community. We're driven by passion. We're part of what makes Canada, Canada. So we're not going to lose these services, but we want to make sure that we're not, starting from a substantial, we're not getting into the future at a point where, we're starting from scratch with some of our activities, some of our participant bases, and so on. So again, we're following the rules. We're hoping that the relationships that are breaking down, that doesn't carry forward into the future. And that's part of the request that we have of the federal government and other levels of government to help us better prepare.
I just need to ask a couple of questions. So it's had a trickle-down effect. The Canada Summer Jobs that each of the MPs send out every summer were affected because we had no outdoor soccer and playgrounds and so on. But a lot of these organizations were never able to access the wage subsidy from the government. And could you comment on that? Because that has had a major effect, that these community organizations and cities could not access the wage subsidy to help out these programs.
Sure, I can speak to that. And it's in the tens of thousands of layoffs that happen. And one portion of the layoffs was full-time people, but a huge amount weren't layoffs. They were hiring that didn't happen, because much of municipal parks and recreation takes place in the summer, and it employs a tremendous amount of coaches and lifeguards and park attendants and so forth. Because our employees in our sector are municipal employees, they did not qualify for the wage subsidy. So there were layoffs, and many of those people, because they didn't get a wage subsidy, have moved on. And when it's time to reopen, it will be a challenge to retrain and rehire. And the other challenge, of course, was the number of students that didn't get hired. I want to acknowledge, though, that Employment and Development Service Canada has been a great partner of ours, and we do continue. We just are signing a contract now for wage subsidies going forward for youth in parks and recreation. And I want to acknowledge that they are matching it as a 100% wage subsidy versus 50 in the past, because they're recognizing municipalities barely have the dollars to hire back the full-time, and
Yep.
students won't necessarily be the priority. So I want to acknowledge that.
Thank you. Mr. Shoemaker,
Um,
I ran into that.
Mr. Waugh,
I've still got a minute left.
you've,
Oh, no,
well,
I got
5
5
minutes, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Waugh. Mr. Housefather.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, et merci à tous les témoins et Madame
Thank you to all witnesses and to
le Carnaval du Québec.
Thank you for the Carnaval de Québec. As my Quebec colleagues have already put questions, I will move to another witness.
Questions. I mean, understanding how difficult right now is for elite athletes, for age group and masters athletes, and for recreational athletes, because you can't train in most regions of Canada in a team. And even if you're in an individual sport and you train in a team, you can't be together. We're way behind in preparation. We're way behind in where everybody wants to be. So my first question is for Mr. Shoemaker. Mr. Shoemaker, are there any countries in terms of internationally that have done this better than Canada and that have right now gotten their elite athletes ready for the Olympics in a better way? And if so, where is that?
Thank you, Mr. Housefather. I'm going to take your question and interpret it a certain way. There's no country in the world that's done it as well as Canada, meaning that Team Canada's athletes in March decided that the important question wasn't whether they could train for the Olympic Games in Tokyo in 2020, but whether they could do so safely for their families and their communities. And they decided no, and they became the first Olympic committee in the world to pull out of the Tokyo Olympic Games. And so they've put the health and safety of themselves, their teammates, their families, and their communities as the top priority. Now, as we look ahead to the Olympics in 2021 and we think about preparation, regrettably, most other advanced swimming nations in the world, for example, have spent more days in the pool. Swimming, our swimmers have spent 120 days out of the pool this year. But we're rapidly closing the distance. But suffice it to say, we are playing catch up in most sports where that level of access is imperative.
Thank you. And so Canadian Parks Recreation Association, having been a mayor, I totally understand the importance that your association plays and that the municipalities play. I'd like to ask the same type of question. As we know, municipalities are run by, are under provincial law. Has there been any provinces that have stepped up across the country that you could point to as an example that have provided adequate funding for their municipalities to deal with all of the challenges that are being faced?
I would say that there's no province or territory that is jumping out at me to answer your question. I think that the provinces are struggling and the territories are struggling as much as the municipalities. One of the things that we're asking for is that federal infrastructure dollars would go direct to municipalities, because what we do find is that sometimes when the funding goes through the provinces and territories, it's spent before the communities have been able to identify their needs, and they know their needs better than anyone. So I think I would leave that as my response.
I agree with you completely. The issue, as a Quebec MP, I know that the Quebec government would be adamantly against this. And we're constantly facing challenges, but I personally agree with you, having faced this challenge as a mayor. So my next question is, for where federal government can help you right now. Right now, there's a lot of confusing information that comes out in terms of safe reopening. For example, in my sport that I know best, the national, the National Swimming Federation is giving guidance, and each provincial swimming federation is giving guidance as to how many people can be in a pool, how many people can be in a lane, what can happen. And you guys would be a great, I think, national organization that would be able to provide safe reopening guidelines and work things out so that there's clarity. Have you guys considered applying for monies under Safe Restart or other programs that allow you to create a website that disseminates information to all of your members across Canada on the best practices for reopening?
Thank you for the question, and definitely that was something and is something that's top of mind for us, especially as it relates to guidelines related to spaces and places where all these activities occur. Early on in the pandemic, we did strike a committee of a variety of different stakeholders to see if that was a role that we should in fact play as a national organization. And actually, the conclusion that we came to was that since a lot of those regulations are driven at the province or territorial level, that it wouldn't be relevant for us to necessarily do that from a facility and space perspective, just because of the different, I guess, states of affairs in each of the areas and the different types of, I guess, expectations, levels of the virus and so on. So we did attempt to do that. We do have a national community, an online community where we can share and distribute information, but specific to guidelines and facilities and spaces, we were told by our membership that it's something that, even though it would be great to have federal leadership on, just as you had mentioned, that it just wasn't something that we necessarily could take on. I just wanted to add one last thing on your previous question as well. And I think right now, as it relates to parks and recreation, I'd say municipalities are feeling alone as it relates to, what to do about that, the issue at hand, whether or not that it's okay to close facilities, whether or not we need to fight tooth and nail to keep these services going, and so on. And I think what we want, or what we're hoping to get from both the federal government and the provincial government, is an indication that other levels of government see these as important services, and maybe instigate municipal decision making to occur. We know that at the end of the day, municipalities pay for 95% of these facilities and spaces. We're not asking to change that, but it would be good to show some signs of support from other levels of government for these services and almost provoke municipal decisions to occur. As a mayor, you would understand what I mean by that.
Thank you, Mr. Roma.
very much.
I have to end it there. We're exactly 2 o'clock, so I want 2 o'clock Eastern. I want to say thank you to our witnesses for joining us. We appreciate the information you provided, and like us, I hope you look forward to the report that's going to come from it. So let's suspend for a few minutes to make room for our next witnesses. Thank you. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Sorry for the delay. It looks like technically we're up to speed. We'll try to get through this. We're now, of course, in the middle of a study for studying the challenges and issues faced by the arts, culture, heritage, and sports sectors during the COVID-19 pandemic. We have three groups with us here. We have Fédération Culturelle Canadienne-Française. We have Martin Théberge, who's president, Marie-Christine Morin, who's the executive director. We have Dana Peers, president and chairman of the board of the Calgary Stampede. I dare you to try to figure out who that man is. Where is he? There. Okay, there he is. And of course, we have Pitzalak Pfeiffer, who's executive director of the, I hope I pronounced this correctly, Kagivut Nunavut, that one I got right, Performing Arts Society. And I will ask for you to correct my pronunciation when your time comes. In the meantime, we're going to start with Martin Théberge, Marie-Christine Morin. Now, you have up to 5 minutes, and one of you would like to start?
Chers membres du comité.
Dear members of the committee, thank you for inviting us to appear before you today to speak of the main effects of the pandemic on our artists and cultural workers of the Canadian and Acadian Francophonie. My name is Martin Théberge, and I'm the president of the Fédération Culturelle Canadienne-Française. And as said, I'm accompanied by Marie-Christine Morin, its executive director. We are the political voice of the arts and culture communities of Francophone minority communities in Canada. Let me say at the outset that the pandemic currently threatens more than 40 years of artistic and cultural development and our people's access to their language and culture. When an organization such as the Compagnon des Francs Loisirs de North Bay in Ontario dies, it means that there's no more cultural activity in French in its community except for students at school. This is also true for Whitehorse, Yukon, St. John's, Newfoundland, and everywhere else in the Canadian and Acadian Francophonie. The linguistic and social vitality of our communities is at risk unless relief comes. Art and culture are a safe investment for the well-being of individuals and society in general, but the challenge of providing it is even greater for local Francophonie communities. Thank you for taking action.
Equity and inclusion for the Canadian and Acadian Francophonie. Among the rest of our peers in the arts and culture sector, they too should be able to experience resiliency, recovery, and revival from this pandemic. Outside of Quebec, the GDP from Francophonie cultural sector accounts for approximately $1.1 billion per year, and the economic spin-offs are approximately $1.2 billion per year, and there are more than 26,000 jobs. We present today with the intention of improving the rollout of government pandemic supports to our members while addressing historical systemic inequities that place further limitations on access. Comme pour l'ensemble des organismes du secteur,
as for all organizations in the sector, our groups are under tremendous financial and just real-life human pressure. Now, a few figures to demonstrate the particularly devastating effects of the pandemic on artists, creators, and cultural workers in our communities. The number of hours worked in October is almost 1/3 less compared to the same period in 2019. In the performing arts sector, approximately 3 out of every 4 jobs have been lost compared to 2019. All indications are that the crisis will continue into 2021, not a very reassuring picture for the health of the sector. Our association is grateful for the government support provided to the arts and culture sector to date. We have worked diligently to ensure that our ecosystem continues to have access to support measures announced by the government. Nevertheless, we have been facing significant challenges in ensuring equitable access to support. In order to reach our communities effectively, we need to consider the precise way in which our organizations are funded and take that into consideration. Initially, the funding envelopes targeted for the distribution of emergency funding for the cultural sector did not target the official languages support programs on which many of our organizations are largely dependent. For the few organizations that were able to benefit from funds granted in Phase 1, amounts were dust. Our groups are underrepresented and underfunded in the arts and culture program envelopes, even at the Canada Council for the Arts. The Phase 2 offer of emergency relief at the end of August, which proposed a specific envelope aimed at ensuring equity, will have helped in part to stabilize the patient. We want to ensure that the lessons learned on how to reach Canadian Francophonie groups is incorporated into the way we proceed in future, during the pandemic and beyond. The government needs to maintain this specific focus in order to provide equitable support to our groups. French language arts and cultural services are essential in minority language communities. The vitality and cultural vitality of communities is at stake. Therefore, we must ensure rapid availability of funding for the arts and culture of the Canadian and Acadian Francophonie, wherever it is across the regions of Canada, and in every discipline, in order to mitigate the effects of the pandemic, encourage recovery, and continue to move towards equity. We will work with the government to achieve these goals. The strong and consistent support of your committee is invaluable to us. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Madam. Thank you so much.
Two of the largest parties, cultural icons this country has ever seen. We heard in the last hour from Carnaval du Québec. The second one is by far, we're honored today because the second one is definitely the Calgary Stampede. Mr. Piers, you have up to 5 minutes, please.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to address you today. As one of Canada's premier community gathering spaces, the Calgary Stampede is rich in Canadian heritage, arts, and culture. Stampede Park is a gathering place that connects urban with rural, educates on agriculture and agri-food. For over 100 years has celebrated the sacred neutral gathering space of the 5 First Nations of Treaty 7, cultivated and showcased excellence in performing youth arts, and been an annual celebration of Western culture, welcoming more than 1 million local, national, and international guests. Our iconic brand represents a unique community spirit that differentiates Calgary and the surrounding region from anywhere else in the world. A not-for-profit organization with a unique business model, there is no comparators in Canada. Many think of the Stampede as an annual festival like the CNE or PNE. However, the Stampede has many year-round operations, including a $35 million meeting and convention business. As well, the Stampede operates year-round programming for youth, culture, and the arts, agriculture, and Indigenous education. The Stampede does not receive municipal support of for any of our year-round programming or operations, including the annual festival. The financial statements include a provincial operating grant, which supports community-based programs. The Stampede's year-round activities are further supported by 2,500 passionate volunteers who dedicate their time and efforts to bring Western culture to life for our community and guests. And pre-COVID, these operations included 350 full-time, 850 part-time, and 4,000 Stampede time employees. It's the last organization of its kind in Canada, and as such finds itself in solitary territory as a result of the pandemic. Unlike other festivals and convention facility comparators, Calgary Stampede has operated independently for more than 100 years, contributing annually $540 million to the Alberta economy and $700 million to the Canadian economy. Stampede Park is situated on 206 acres of land and is largely leased from the city of Calgary, with many sizable facilities such as the BMO Convention Center, Grandstand Nutrien Western Event Center, Big Four building, and youth campus, all of which are used for arts, culture, and sports presentations. At the onset of the pandemic, the Calgary Stampede took immediate action and made the difficult decision to initiate significant financially prudent measures. This included laying off 745 employees, of whom 154 were then placed on queues, terminating 227 employees and canceling almost 4,000 jobs due to the cancellation of Stampede 2020. The remaining 10% of our workforce all took pay reduction. Despite these actions, which commenced in mid-March, we continue to face a reality of ongoing expenses against zero revenue. In a regular year, the Stampede's annual celebration and year-round event business brings in revenue of $150 million annually from more than 1,800 events. Over the past 9 months, the Canadian Emergency Wage Subsidy provided some relief. The support enabled us to stay connected and to then bring back 600 people in September. And this week, announcement to extend queues is hopeful. Unfortunately, it is the lone federal support program that our organization has been able to access, so we are challenged. The Stampede is recognized as an organization that perseveres. It has successfully persevered through world wars, the Great Depression, and natural disasters, including the flood of 2013 in southern Alberta. However, the ongoing impact of the current pandemic are truly great, and as such can only be overcome with assistance. Through the continued efforts to repurpose facilities, we have been able to see a slight improvement in our original year-end forecast, and for 2021, we are budgeting for a further decline as we try to bridge to a more normal 2022. This budget does plan for a Stampede 2021 with considerable adjustments as we try to anticipate what COVID-19 restrictions may be in place next July. The management continues to actively work with both the federal and provincial government partners on the most appropriate mechanisms to provide financial assistance. We deeply appreciate the time and opportunity to address the committee today, and I look forward to answering any questions.
Well, sir, we asked you for 5 minutes and you gave us exactly 5 minutes. I've never seen that before. Nevertheless, good stuff. Now we go to Mr. Pfeiffer from Nunavut.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, committee members. On behalf of Hug-Gavut's Board of Directors, chaired by Ms. Terry Kusugak, we would like to thank this committee for extending the invitation to us way up here in Nunavut. Ms. Kusugak, some of our board members, and many of our artists are located in the Kivalliq region of Nunavut, which is currently experiencing a massive COVID-19 outbreak, given the small resident population. As of yesterday, Nunavut had a total of 198 confirmed cases with 75 active cases. Our hearts and thoughts are with the families affected. For us, with our very limited healthcare, crowded housing, and epidemic of depression and suicide, and meager social and economic supports, the threat of this virus has put a disproportionate stress on our communities. We have only recently come out of a complete territorial lockdown, which has heightened the impact on our arts sector in Nunavut. To set the stage, I'm asking you to envision how cultural traditions have been a means of survival for Inuit as a people, sustaining us through times of crisis and times of joy historically. I'm asking you to envision how the otherwise necessary public health measures have prevented performing arts from being the lifeline for many Inuit youth, the platform through which we all up here get inspired to pursue healthy choices and contribute to the well-being of our communities. At Hug-Gavut, we constantly ask ourselves, how can our elders' songs and stories continue to be guarded and passed on to future generations via performing arts in such a crisis and its aftermath? Our culture and way of life is at risk for many reasons, even beyond the present global pandemic. Our not-for-profit society is guided by a focus on Inuit-led healing and wellness to preserve and promote our language and our culture and bring life to our communities through performing arts. But our impact is beyond our communities. Our artists have brought their talent and Inuit stories and performances to Canadian art stages like the National Arts Centre and have gained accolades internationally. The investment in Inuit artists and performing arts puts Canada on the global stage and serves a larger cultural purpose. Inuit have played a key role in Canadian cultural diplomacy and identity. even though this role is greatly admired and appreciated artistically, for the most part, it has been undervalued financially. Nunavut is the only jurisdiction in Canada that still does not have a performing arts center, for example. We hope that in the post-pandemic context, we will see federal funding to address this inequity, to build the Huggick Hub Performing Arts Center, to train emerging artists through the Huggick School of Performing Arts, and to continue developing professional touring productions for the world stage. The name of Huggiavut has gained recognition, and we have become a source of collaboration and partnership. We have grown quickly and built a reputation of being a responsible and action-oriented, inclusive, and diverse organization founded by a grassroots movement of Inuit and non-Inuit Northerners together. This has shown in how we have fundraised over the years to advance our mission to strengthen, promote, advocate, and create space for Nunavut and Inuit performing artists, from ordinary Canadians to celebrities to community members and territorial and federal stakeholders. We are grateful to all who have contributed to the cause. Through their giving and our COVID-19 special fundraising efforts, we were able to put money directly into the hands of our community members. Yes, we can call them artists, and rightfully so. Throughout this past summer, we mobilized and created our Artist Emergency Fund. We continue to adjust our programming to the new conditions. We must transform the current pandemic challenges into an opportunity for economic recovery through arts and culture. The post-COVID world will be one with increased appetite for the performing arts. We realize that now more than ever, Inuit need the space and support to create art at home and contribute to the economic recovery of Canada. Thank you.
Okay, I asked you for 5 minutes. You just gave me exactly 5 minutes. These are great witnesses today. This is really going well. Beyond the content that you bring, which has actually been very important and very good. So I'd like to ask my colleagues before we start, all our witnesses are virtuals. Can you please, it'd be great if you could just point out who your question and direct your question to a particular person so that they would know. We're starting with Mr. Shields. 6 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the witnesses being here today. Very much appreciate your participation. Mr. Pierce, it was probably 1953 that I remember sitting on the sidewalk for my first Calgary Stampede, so it goes back a ways. We're very familiar with Calgary Stampede in many ways, but when you talk about arts and Indigenous, the effect that COVID has had on those two parts, and so people would understand how much of the arts and Indigenous participation in the Calgary Stampede and what has created difficulties from this. Could you expound on that, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee. Thank you for the question. To give you a little bit more insight as to specific programs related to the arts and certainly the Indigenous community, I might just mention a few specific ones. We have an Indigenous youth program. Approximately 124 students in 2019 went through that educational program. Programs like our Young Canadians School for Performing Arts, I would certainly draw attention to that program. Again, about 131 students. Our show band, our 4-H programs, all of these are affected. Most people aren't aware that about 50,000 kids a year in one way or another come in touch with our different educational programs and the different programs that are offered here at the Calgary Stampede. And as we, again, against zero revenue, continue to try and work with the creditors to be sustainable through this period, inevitably, the cost of that debt inhibits our ability to be able to offer these programs. I hope that answers the question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and very much appreciate in the sense of, in this day and age of urban students being able to access knowledge about agriculture is what you do year-round, but also extensively during the Stampede Festival. When you talked about where you are financially for 2021, as you look at it, What kind of numbers are you looking at? Are you looking at concessions? Are you looking at dollar figures? What are you looking at in the sense of what you may need?
Thank you. At this point in time, the Calgary Stampede will be seeing approximately a loss of $28.6 million in 2020. That will increase again dramatically in 2021, approximately another $11.7 million in 2021 as we try to form a budget which will go to the board here on December 8th, which will hopefully show an opportunity for us to bridge across 2021 to Stampede 2022, when we hope that more normal circumstances will prevail and we'll be back to our regular generation of revenue.
As we would understand, the Calgary Stampede is probably the peak performance for a lot of people in that particular profession, but it's the feeder system that also supports by many, many athletes and communities supported outside of your organization, but feed into it because it is the peak. What effect do you believe this may have had on the grassroots that feeds into your world-class event?
Thank you. You're absolutely right. Again, I'll just even point to 4-H and 4-H rodeo. Again, these athletes have been unable, of course, to perform and to participate. All of those programs are in jeopardy. But I'll even draw a bigger line to our own Stampede Ranch. We, of course, the bucking stock, our equine athletes, which support certainly the Canadian rodeo athletes. Again, the industry has been virtually devastated through the pandemic.
Looking for 2021, if things change enough, you will be looking to provide the full operation of the Stampede Festival by June and July of 2021? You'll be able to recover enough?
It's certainly our hope. We're looking at several different scenarios currently. These scenarios take into consideration what might or might not be possible due to the COVID pandemic, but the organization is working hard to see what we can provide for 2021. We certainly are in the planning stages. As we did with the conventions and meetings sector, we were leaders in helping Alberta Health Services establish the guidelines for reopening, and we'll continue to work with Alberta Health Services closely as we talk about Stampede 2021 and what might be possible.
One last thing quickly, the volunteer base. I have known of a couple of friends of mine that have spent 30 to 40 years every summer. Their summer holiday is volunteering for the Calgary Stampede, and you mentioned that volunteer base. You want to just touch on that one more time?
I'm very happy to touch on the volunteer base. Myself, I'm a 30-plus year volunteer with the organization. Again, we have approximately 2,500 volunteers here, which we're trying to re-engage in a safe manner with COVID. Again, we have all of them looking at their programs and trying to understand under these different scenarios what might or might not be possible for this coming year. But we definitely have a strong volunteer contingent, and we hope to remain that and keep that intact.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Mr. Lewis, 6 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And, you brought up a good point that we're all remote. So since we are from all different parts of the country at this meeting, I do want to acknowledge that I'm attending on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee and the Neutral people. And it's an honor to be here today. I'm going to try and get to as many witnesses as I can in this short period of time. But I did want to start with Mr. Pfeiffer. A very, very moving opening statement about the importance of arts. And any of the questions that I had were out the window. And I ultimately wanted to talk about mental health and how we can tie in mental health, with the arts, how we can help, how artists can help deliver that, and how we can keep our communities, safe physically and also the mental health. And you talked about protecting culture. So there may be two ways of doing that. One, I wondered if you could elaborate on the Performing Arts Center that you were referring to. I tried to write it out phonetically, the Hugay Root Center, possibly. If you could tell me the importance of of a hub like that. I know that that Mr. Piers also mentioned School for Performing Arts, so a place where people can gather and share culture and art. If you can tell the importance of that.
I very much appreciate the question, Mr. Louis. So the Performing Arts Center that we were really trying to work on is valued at something around $45 million. So this would be a bit of a legacy project for the territory, and I would say for Canada as well. Located hopefully here in Iqaluit, Nunavut, where tourism plays an important role. It's hard to imagine how at this point in time, a performing arts center that can seat several hundred people can in this day and age of COVID, but it does take a few years. So what do we do in the meantime? In that sense, I think mental health and the continued connection between elders, youth, women, children, etc., is so important. And so what we've been lacking and what we're trying to pivot towards really is around this this infrastructure around media and remote learning. And so this Christmas, we hope to be able to launch an important event where we encourage children and community members to be able to replicate a traditional Inuit song. And so it's that constant engagement that we're trying to do to alleviate some of the necessary precautions, lockdowns, whatever we call it. So we are trying to make innovative pathways towards alleviating those very important concerns that you've been mentioning. Thank you so much for the question.
Yeah, and if I can follow up on that, the word innovation and innovative has come up a number of times, and that was, the physical space of having to meet at some point. We'll be through this and we'll be able to meet again, but there's an opportunity possibly to also have some sort of digital outreach or hybrid outreach where you're doing performances and maybe reaching a wider audience. So can you tell our panel that what kind of investments we can make to make sure that not only the people that are in the seats in your theater can share this culture, but how you can get this out to a broader audience?
Well, there is obviously some current northern remote internet and telecommunications capacity issues. I think it's well recognized that there are, especially in the small communities, the high cost of having internet at home, the high cost of having to purchase perhaps a laptop, etc. The high cost of a monthly internet service. These might seem like small investments at $50, $100 here and there a month, but it adds up, especially when we have 1.8 million square kilometers to consider for just 26 communities. Having said that, though, I think the investments, albeit on a macro scale, is improving the internet and telecommunications capacity of this country. We're looking for investments about digital equipment, being able to have those types of conversations, even within a community, for example, a community of perhaps several hundred people, and being able to connect from one end of the village to the other. And that is kind of the opportunities here that we're looking for. It is really about this improved internet infrastructure, the cost of that, and offsetting some of that so that we can continue to have children and moms and elders engage in this new platform.
I believe, yeah, we'll call it an investment, and I know that our government is very aware of that rural and remote internet access has become such an important thing, and it will end with some low orbit satellites in places that are maybe possibly too remote. So I thank you. I'm running out of time, but I want to switch to Calgary, Mr. Piers, where I have to say I've spent a number of years as a musician. I'd spent about 3 weeks in July at the Stampede every year, working at least 5 or 6 jobs a day, and so I do understand the importance and all the businesses around that benefit from the festivals. We would play in restaurants and clubs and breakfast events and right up to the evening events. So So the way I look at it is we need, as a government, to support the businesses who rely on the festivals for all of that funds. You bring so much to your community, all the festivals around the country, and that's where the wage subsidy and the CERB for these artists that are traveling around. But also, can you tell us about some sustained support that that it's not just support in the short term, how we can support the arts and festivals over a long period of time? What would help you?
Thank you for that question, and you're exactly right. It's a much bigger picture than just certainly the Calgary Stampede itself, but what it means to the community. Just the 10-day festival alone, which you alluded to, is over $200 million just during that 10 days. The ongoing support is always required as we continue, especially to work with all age groups from very young to the older and professional artists. It's certainly a challenging time for us right now. We have been moving from a more physical and active role through the things such as the Young Canadian School for Performing Arts has had to go digital, and we're trying to move and pivot here, I guess is the new term, in terms of trying to make sure that we can continue to offer some of these services. It's becoming incredibly difficult though when we look at just our debt service and paying the fees for the professional required in order to educate and teach in these programs.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. I have to end it right there. Next, prochaine question pour Monsieur Champoux.
Next question, Mr. Champoux, 6 minutes. Thank you, Chair. And thank you so much to all the witnesses for having come here today to help us with this study. I would like to speak with the Fédération Culturelle Canadienne Française. Thank you, Mr. Theberge and Ms. Morin. Ms. Morin, you mentioned the challenges. And access is being a challenge, access to the financial funding throughout this pandemic. I'd like a bit more details about this. So what has not worked for you? And how have you helped improve things? Thank you for your question. Our analysis of access to the funds did show a weakness when we applied an official languages view of the situation. So 500 million that was handled in 2 phases really used existing channels of distribution. Those identified for the first phase were ones in which we were not very present. Our organizations out in the field really were not involved in those channels. And channels that didn't exist at all were official language support channels, such that there was some exclusion, if I can put it that way, of a number of the francophonie situations from these channels, given that they just weren't part of them. Now, luckily, we were able to improve the situation for phase 2. The teams in the department worked with us directly to come up with solutions. An announcement was made at the end of August to the effect that we were being given a special envelope of a little over $1 million, which allowed official language communities and other equity challenged groups to access funding. So if we consider how our groups did have access to funding in the second phase, we do see that they mostly went through support for official languages, that type of funding. So that certainly did meet the needs. This said, it was really with some difficulty that groups were able to get funding. We have small distributors, broadcasters in Acadia and BC that still don't have any funding, given that these organizations do not have mandates that exclusively cover culture. So among the criteria that we have for accessing funding, we asked for funding only for groups whose mandate is cultural only. So there are a number of organizations that we know of that are in far-flung areas of Canada, small communities that wear many hats. For example, they offer childcare while they're also offering cultural programming. So these players were excluded by the definition. So the criteria for obtention of relief funding was set in a way that was useful in part, but did exclude some of us. There are a number of measures that have been signaled as being priorities by you, but what would you mention here today, things that would help and would help structure your sector for the Francophonie, the Cross Canada, and also Acadian as well? I would say there are essentially two things I'd like to mention. First, we will need to re-examine and adjust the official languages lens within the federal government to ensure that it is applied as it should be. We saw an economic statement at the beginning of the week. A supplementary amount for that sector was announced, and that's certainly well received. The pandemic hasn't run its course, and the cultural sector will continue to need assistance. So we need to ensure that this approach is applied to future investments as well, meaning that programming be allotted for the groups in which our members are involved. That's number one. Now, second, I will echo the comments of my colleague, Mr. Pfeiffer. The digital pivot is important, and we're not up to speed in the Francophonie of Canada on this pivot. Access to broadband is a challenge for many remote communities. Moreover, the equipment required, difficult to keep up to date, very few funding sources for this purpose. Generally speaking, within Canada's Francophonie, there is a lack of expertise, a lack of capacity and knowledge in French among our organizations about applying the new methods, the digital methods. So we certainly need more investment in this area, but we also need, a kind of mentoring and assistance to help our organizations pivot and adopt a digital strategy which is appropriate to this age. Let me turn to Mr. Theberge. Mr. Theberge, you mentioned in your presentation a number of historic inequalities, systemic inequalities. I'd like you to say more about this. I imagine that you were referring to, and I certainly don't want to speak for you, of course. I don't want to be answering in your place, but I imagine you were saying that Francophone communities outside of the province of Quebec are often forgotten in programming. Is that correct? Well, yes. My colleague, Marie-Christine Morin, also touched on this. The inequality is due to the fact that funding is provided to institutions that have very specific criteria regarding arts and culture that don't necessarily cover our organizations, that they often haven't really fit into because we tend to fit into descriptions about official language programming. As Madame Morin, there can be an organization that offers childcare, cultural programming, day camps for learning art for parents at the end of the school day, things like this. So this is a mixed bag, which makes sense if you're supporting culture, but is not necessarily entirely arts and culture. So they're set aside. This is a longstanding problem resulting from efforts to structure descriptions of organizations for funding. And we're often told that, no, you should speak to official languages. You should speak to official languages, but we do more than that. Thank you very much.
Tell me that we're going to extend by 5 minutes based on what I have left. I hope I can receive the blessing of committee to extend beyond 5 minutes past the top of the hour, bottom of the hour if you're in Newfoundland. Ms. Morin, just a quick note, when you speak again, could you please hold the microphone closer to your mouth with those things? Yeah. As a matter of fact, up next we have Ms. McPherson, and she'll show you exactly how to do it. Go ahead, Ms. McPherson, 6 minutes, please.
I will start with a demonstration of
There you
holding my mic up, I suppose. Would also to thank all of our witnesses today. It's been very interesting. I get the great privilege of going after my colleagues, so I can sort of fill in the gaps in questions that may have been there. But it would be remiss of me to be an Albertan and to not start with Mr. Peers and to start with the Calgary Stampede. I'm not a Calgary member of Parliament, but that I can tell you that has not stopped me from attending the Stampede on a number of times. Your hockey team is not as good as ours, but your Stampede is vastly superior. One of the things that my colleague, Mr. Lewis, spoke of that I would like to follow up on a little bit is the deep impact on the community. So we know that Calgary Stampede is not something that happens on the Stampede grounds alone, that it is something that happens in the entire province, but certainly massively for the city of Calgary, the entire city. Do you have some of the numbers of what the impacts have been? Do you have some of the actual facts on what that impact looks like in a normal year?
Well, if we compare a normal year, what I would say is that here in the province, the economic benefit of the Calgary Stampede throughout the year is about $540 million. So as we've been drawn to really zero over the course of the pandemic here, it's had a huge impact on what would normally be seen here in the province.
And I guess one of my concerns too is that as we go forward, hopefully there will be a rollout of a vaccine. Hopefully we will be able to have a Stampede in 2021. Do you feel that people will be comfortable attending the Stampede? Do you have worries about what that will look like in terms of participation?
We're certainly aware that that's going to be an element that's going to have to be addressed. What I can say, in the short period of time that we were allowed to open some of our events here in October on Park in terms of our convention facilities and meetings and trade shows, is that there was definitely a demand. People wanted to get back out and wanted to participate, and I would hope that that's going to be the same come July.
Well, if it's possible, I can tell you that I will be there, and perhaps that maybe, Mr. Chair, could I suggest a field trip for the committee?
Oh my!
We could all visit. I'll host. My next question, I think, should be on. I'll go from one fantastic festival in Alberta to another. I'm from Edmonton, Strathcona, which, of course, I've said in the previous panel, we have a massive Francophone community. And so I'd like to ask some questions of Ms. Morin and Mr. Tiberge. In terms of equitable access, in terms of support for the Francophonie outside of Quebec, in other areas of the country, if you could please, I know you've given us quite a lot of information, but if you could please just give us your top 3 recommendations that you would like to see the federal government do, that we can put in the, that we can take forward to the government right now, what would those 3 things be? Ms. Morin, maybe I'll start with you.
Certainement, comme j'ai mentionné un petit peu plus tôt.
Yes, of course. As I mentioned earlier, really systematically applying the lens for applications underway, being studied now, and those to be studied in the future, to well understand how our organizations are funded out in the field and ensure that the envelopes at issue, the programming laid out, have a proportion of Francophone groups in the sector and that we receive that funding on an equitable basis. That's number 1. Number 2, we should have digital investments, as I said earlier, to ensure that we are supported through a pivot. It's not enough to put out funds for digital organizations. You also need to ensure that our artists, our programming developers are supported and mentored through this. Even if there's a strategy of funding this, you need an organization. You need to foresee organizing the undertaking so that artists can be supported as they pivot to digital. So that means that you've got agents, specialists in digital agility who can accompany and work closely with us. I'd also say that, of course, we should ensure that we have systematically instituted access to arts and culture in all funding envelopes, all funding undertakings across the country. We need to ensure there's a systematic way to transfer funds with, special conditions for equality, and ensuring as well that this be monitored with success indicators so that we see how this is working. Those are the three main elements.
Anything that you would like to add to that, Mr. Tavares?
La seule chose que je mentionnerais peut-être.
Well, what I would say to round out what Ms. Morin just said is something that underscores all this, the whole issue of data and information. We ourselves had to carry out our own research to find how many jobs were lost, how many jobs are supported as well by our sector, and what investments have existed. So to ensure that even the government be more efficient and effective in granting funds, well, we need data. Well as gathered data, verified data, it's of the highest importance, and this is certainly a gap. We don't have the information we need. So this is like an underlying issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ferguson. Okay, Mr. Aitchison, for 5 minutes, please.
I think you said me, did you not, Mr. Chair?
Yes, I did, sir. You're up for 5 minutes.
I couldn't hear you very well. Thank you very much. And I must admit, I feel a bit at a loss for words. A lot of the questions that I was thinking of have been asked and answered. But and so as a result of that, I think what I'd like to do actually is focus in a little bit more on the Performing Arts Center that Mr. Pfeiffer was speaking about. And I guess maybe specifically, I'm wondering if Mr. Pfeiffer, you could elaborate a little bit more on it. Also, if there's been any formal application process or anything commenced by your organization to request support for the construction of that facility.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aitchison. I appreciate the conversation that we're having and the question in particular. Yes, our Performing Arts Center concept has gone through a couple of years of really purposeful study. We've made substantial investments in going through that process. For example, developing a feasibility study, a year of consultation with all sorts of different levels of stakeholders. At one point, there was interest from a federal minister of Canadian heritage. And that was really starting to signal a potential upswing in a very necessary tripartite investments where you have different levels of government. What usually is the political investment climate at the moment is that, yes, within the federal family, there is interest and appetite in filling this Canadian gap, as I was espousing. The trouble with the territorial government and not be, there is this management by crisis where a lot of the necessary operating and investment programming dollars is to handle, 60 to 70% of their budget is just to deal with crisis, health, education, transportation. And so what left over is there to invest in a legacy projects such as the Nunavut Performing Arts Center? Dollars to donuts, this Performing Arts Center would have tremendous return on investment. It would signal that this is that Nunavut and Iqaluit is a cultural mecca where people from all over the world can come safely, of course. But as well, this really, when you have something that's concrete as a bricks and mortar place like this, it shows it's akin to building a university, and we don't have that here as well. But point being, sir, is that it's really about the momentum that we've been building here, and it's been a wonderful opportunity to be able to share it with you. Lastly, I think my point here is that this infrastructure investment really is about, tying in the work that we're doing at the school with the performing arts nationally, internationally. But again, it's this homegrown effort, this generational effort that I think you would agree that the performing arts is an incredibly important panacea, perhaps, in growing the next generation of self-actualized, healthy Inuit generations. Thank you, sir.
Oh, you spoke the magic words to me there. Self-actualized. That's a very powerful message. Thank you. And I wholeheartedly agree with you. I really quickly, if I still have a few minutes or a moment, I'm wondering if you would be prepared to share some of that information, the feasibility study, that kind of stuff, with the committee. I would love to pore over that and understand it better, and perhaps maybe do a little bit to help with the next stages of it, if possible.
Thank you, sir. I'll do that. Absolutely.
Mr. Chair, that's pretty much all I really wanted to focus on. So I'm happy to give up some time to somebody else.
Thank you, Mr. Aitken. Good job. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Up next is our newest permanent member here on the committee, Ms. Ian. You get to end off today. So there you go. We're ending off on the newest member. First of all, thanks for joining us, and congratulations on being here. And the next 5 minutes, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, thank you so much. This has been such an interesting conversation. So thank you to the witnesses for sharing what you have. I've got just a couple of questions, the first of which to Mr. Pfeiffer. Mr. Pfeiffer, you talked a little bit about the impact of COVID-19 on your communities in Nunavut, and how really you're just coming out of things now. That the community has been ravaged in many ways, but you also talked about mental health and the impact of arts on mental health. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and your experience with regards to that, please?
Thank you very much, Ms. Ian, for your question, your interest, and congratulations as well. The role of mental health and the performing arts, that connection is really a very deep one. In the GTA and in huge Canadian cities, in a very multicultural, faceted, intergenerational perspective, yes, there's a lot of very traditional, foundational Canadian perspectives on what performing arts is. In Nunavut and for Inuit, it is embedded on our cultural survival. The ability and the power of transmitting knowledge of a simple song within much deeply coded cultural rules, and it is that process of learning what might be a very 30-second song is really the codes for becoming a strong, self-actualized, responsible person who takes control of that learning process of becoming ephemeral with that song. It's such a, I haven't had the pleasure of having to do that. I wish I would, but really that mental health component is really, I think, when you have the joy of young people getting together, learning a fun children's song, you can appreciate how in any global context, community context, that is such a return on investment. The point being here is that let's not forget that Nunavut has so much beautiful land, so much beautiful sila, which is an important part of this connection with mental health. If there's this connection between the land, the stories, families, I think you start to see that there's an immediate remedy here. What the Performing Arts Center does is help to visualize in more of a, well, if you sat in a theater and experienced the play, we can all appreciate the joy that it brings. So I think that's kind of the mental health aspect. We have so many young people that that unfortunately are experiencing and dealing with the effects of suicide, domestic violence, single moms, children who are in foster care. You can imagine how promoting investing in performing arts, it's not something that is as flippant as, you know, let's give these kids some money to develop a stage play. It really is, ladies and gentlemen, much deeper. And I very much appreciate your question.
Mr. Pfeiffer, thank you so very much. And lastly, this would be a question for all of our witnesses today. We spoke a little bit, and you did, about moving to the digital world and pivoting that way. But what I've realized is incentives have to be created for people. So wondering if we can talk a little bit about that, or you can share with us how to get people to actively participate in virtual events for arts and culture, heritage, and sport, because virtual attendance, as we've seen, has significantly low participation rates. And I'm wondering, Mr. Peers, if we can start with you. As a reporter, I have covered the Calgary Stampede, or had covered for several years, and I know what it offers. But any thought about that? To kind of up participation rates and move in that direction digitally?
Thank you for your question. And yes, we certainly have seen whether it's screen fatigue or exactly what you want to call it, that participation can be difficult. But I have to say that for the most part, through our youth programs, we've seen a real uptake by the students and by the individuals, not only with the programs such as the Young Canadians, but the others where we have pivoted. They just want to be part of something that they believe strongly in and want to participate. It's certainly not the same experience, but most definitely we've had very good uptake.
Ms. Morin or Monsieur? Oui,
j'ajouterais que.
Yes, I would add that at present, we're sort of in a big laboratory altogether. That's the phase we're in. That this new way of linking into arts and culture, it's an exploratory period. We don't have all the solutions lined up yet. We certainly know that digital will never replace in-person involvement, and perhaps we'll never have the same sense of being involved in an event as when you're there in person, sharing the event in real time, in real space. But I would say that the hybrid form of performance, of sharing art, will probably stay with us. So it would be smart of us all to take advantage of the situation by learning how to make hybrid access more more friendly, user-friendly, of quality, allowing a broader public to access events. And of course, our membership is Canada-wide, and we've never been more connected than we have been since this virtual age here in Canada. And we've been able to participate in and see things that we otherwise wouldn't have. So this is a new way of discovering art and culture. And I think we need to find innovative ways to see to it that this new way of coming into contact with art, with artworks, is as good as we hope. Thank you.
There, folks. Thank you so much, everyone, for doing this. I want to thank our witnesses who did a tremendous job today. Mr. Pfeiffer, thank you so much for joining us from the Kagiuvut Nunavut Performing Arts Society. Dana Peers, President, Chairman of the Board, Calgary Stampede, and Marie-Christine Morin, Martin Théberge from the Fédération Culturelle Canadienne-Française. Merci beaucoup, tout le monde. Have a great week.
Thank you, everyone.
Colleagues, we'll see you on Monday. We have the drafting instructions and committee business to discuss. Have yourselves a great weekend. Bon fin de semaine.